Hey, alright, so I'm here in the backyard. I actually recorded last night, but the issue was, as you can imagine, the fireworks are really loud. So I'm trying again today, Sunday, July. June. It's crazy. You're going by fast, but it's crazy, as we all know. But it is July 5th, and I want to show you what the garden looks like so far. Okay. Oops. I picked, I harvested actually quite a bit of tomatoes. I think I've harvested at least 16, 17 of these. Um, and I still have some that are growing, some that are ready to harvest, and yeah, cherry tomatoes. So I actually put this in yesterday. And yeah, so it's just like a little decor. Here are the sunrise sauce. I always say sunland. So I'm giving these a little shake because they already started to flower and fruit in a matter of less than 2 weeks after I transplanted them. Yeah, they grow really fast. So what's gonna have to happen is I'm not gonna cut this because it turns out this one has flowers on it, but I'm going to have to get a trellis or a tomato stand, trellis to make sure they are in great. I mean, they don't become too invasive. Cause look at it, look at it. It's already out of the bed. It's just out. It's crazy. Yeah, these are really kind of invasive in terms of space. I'm not sure in terms of roots, but they do go really big. And I realized that on Friday because I've seen some plants that are even bigger than this, and they look like they've been there for at least a year or two. And it hasn't even been 3 months since I transplanted these, and they're already this large. Well, anyways, though, here is the tomatoes. These will definitely be ready to harvest within a week. This one I can technically pick off, but I'm just gonna wait until it turns red. And then I'm gonna take a few of these because they're very tangy, like a great sauce, I think altogether. But I learned from the Crenshaw Community Garden, shout out to them, because I've learned a lot of things in a matter of the hour and a half I've been there. Yeah, so these are great for salads. The cherry tomatoes, the grape tomatoes, they're great for salads. But the bigger tomatoes, they have more plump to it, and those are what they usually use to make tomato sauce. So this is a great sauce. I mean, I guess tomato to have in my for my needs. This is also great, and I think maybe once I switch these out, I'm gonna get some Roman tomatoes so I can make, I guess the traditional one. The reason why I didn't get Roman is because I wanted to try stuff that's new. I heard from a couple other channels that you have 15,000 different varieties of tomatoes. So there's so many I'm willing to try out. So yeah, those are the tomato updates, at least in this bed. And here I have in between these branches of the tomatoes, I have, this is my orange bell pepper. And orange bell pepper is like relatively very easy to grow. And I say that because you just maybe also got to give them a little shake because they're male and female flowers within the same thing. So I just give them a little shake, and yeah, so I'm doing it with all the other ones. If you see kind of like this little petal out, that means that it was successfully pollinated. So a lot of these I've planted recently, and yet they're growing very tall. They're growing very nice, and they kind of just grow sort of like a tree that doesn't branch out exponentially. Um, yeah, so I know they recommend that you give them a little space, which I sort of did, but I did them together only because I know it is a bed, and they won't grow as big as if at least for some. If they grow substantially bigger. Sometimes they grow like a bush when they're in the ground. The stems start to harden and stay more sturdy, as if it is a tree or a bush. So I don't know how big they're gonna get officially, but I'll say this: that at least they'll get to grow some fruit at this point. It won't have a high yield as if I had a spaced out field or something, but they'll still grow stuff. And actually, these three I did plant recently, actually very recently compared to my other ones. But yeah, here one of the very first ones I planted was the red bell pepper, and this one is already starting to fruit. I have three of them on this plant, and it's great. My red hot chili peppers are growing. Actually, one is already starting to turn red. If you can see it, this branch is in the way, but yeah, you can see the red spots. That means it's on the verge of being ready to harvest. I know the purple means that it has a sunburn, but this one is these two are expanding out a lot. You can see it. Yeah, but they're like this big, and they're getting ready to be harvested very soon. I ignore the purple spots because it just means it's a sunburn, so I don't think that's gonna be too much of an issue. Strawberries growing all the way to the ground, and just this one. I have a lot of strawberries, but these weren't able to flower, and so I basically have to wait until next year. And there's that tomato. Yeah, so I pretty much have gypsy peppers. This one, yeah, gypsy. I recently planted that. I have red bell peppers, roasted red bell peppers. I have red hot chili peppers, jalapenos. I have orange bell peppers, yellow bell peppers, and yeah, I think that's just what I have. I have a lot of them in this one plant, and I think this one is the largest. This might be planting this one first, but this one kind of grows out maybe a bit larger than the other ones, but if it does get too invasive, I'll just snip it, prune it. But nonetheless, it's still growing really well. It's not growing spread out like this one because I don't know what to do with this one. Yeah, so that's it with this bed. And excuse me for the mess. I think I'm just still trying to. Things are being brought out here because I guess there are quite a bit of stuff out in the house. So I guess stuff is being brought out here. And also I've kind of went through some stuff in terms of moving things around. Look at that. Right, so jalapenos. No, cilantro. Unfortunately, these did not make it. What I'm going to do is water it more because they're really, really delicate. They're really fragile, and so I'm not perfect. I'm still learning things as I grow. So I'm I'm just trying to at least share the things that I do know, and also share my failures because there's quite a few failures that are going on right now, and I'll own up to it because that's how you learn. We all make mistakes, and that's how we evolved. And at least in this climate, it's important for me to at least know what grows well here. And these have grown well in the valley, but apparently I'm not in the valley, and it has its own climate, I guess, to adapt to while it's growing. So yeah, I don't know if these grew in, that probably didn't grow in our region. It probably grew farther out, but it was brought down here. And so, yeah, cilantro, fortunately a lot of it did not make it, but I can see that some are still growing, and that's okay. We all learn from our mistakes. Here I have the spinach. These actually kind of fell off, so I know they weren't going to do as well, but they're still growing, and that's good news. I know they probably don't do as well in the sun as maybe other plants. If it gets any worse, I'm going to put them in the greenhouse, not folded down, but just where they have enough room to breathe and still be in the shade. I did that with the cabbage, and I don't think I'll have too much of a problem with the other ones. Here is the strawberries. I actually bought 18 of these plants, so I put 6 in here, and then the rest of them are in here. So I mean, I know they are gonna get bigger, but I'm just gonna have it in here in the meantime until I figure out, okay, well, while they're still small and stuff. So yeah, I know they kind of spread out a lot. So kale, I know they probably don't do as well in the sun, but I would say this: once the sun kind of goes out of the way, they, they replenish at least within their state. As you can see, that was the case for this one because it's no longer in the shade right now. I mean, in the sun right now, so it looks okay. Here is my okra. So a lot of them are drooping down, unfortunately. I don't think these are gonna make it. I'm bummed out. It sucks, but you know, you live and you learn. It's okay. I mean, these two are doing well. I actually pulled this one out a little earlier because it wasn't making it. But it's also something that I realized I made a mistake on, and it's okay because you can always learn from your mistakes. I think what I'm gonna end up doing is transplanting them over to the bed over there, which I'm gonna get to in a second. Here is raspberries growing pretty large. That's great, really, really large. I mean, the other part, like I said before, did not grow so well, but I still have this, and it's thriving actually. And so I may have to transplant it pretty soon to make sure it at least has its roots can grow out. Okay, so from the garden that I also learned is that once the basil starts to flower, that means its time is up. So when it starts to flower, that means the seeds come soon afterwards or during. And so I actually harvested, I think from one flower from the cinnamon basil, and yeah, the flower gave me a lot of seeds. So I'm happy about that, but I do think once it starts to flower is when the time is just kind of, and so I actually snipped these, um, snip the flowers off, but yet they're still growing. But I do think once you look at the roots and they're kind of this yellowish brown, that can either mean they're probably maturing, at least because they've been there for a long time, or they're just simply they're dying. And so once all the seeds starts to flower, once all the flowers kind of die off, I think that's when I'm going to have to take the plant out and probably transplant another one, or so I'm growing more basil. I am, and I'm just going to use that basil that I have and transplant it into this one because it's my designated bed for basils. It's okay. I mean, I guess it's meant to happen because I did wait. I had actually let it flower because it's pretty, it's aromatic, and it also attracts some pollinators, which is good. So it's kind of like a win-win for me because I still get to harvest seeds and use them for many, many more plants to come. So yeah, I'm not complaining too much. As long as I have my favorite basil, which is over there, then I'm okay. All right. So here is. I'm just gonna go through this bed, sunflowers, and I'm gonna go back to where to the other part and then the squash. Just this whole area. Okay, so here's my German thyme, English thyme. Yeah, they're supposed to grow in the shade. And I think that's why they probably haven't been in the best condition as of now. Or it can also mean that they have started to flower, or maybe it's just kind of pulled out. But you know what? You live and you learn. I know they said the spearmint or the peppermint's supposed to be growing in the shade. They grow well. They grow best in the shade. But the thing is, look at it. I've actually harvested a few of these, and it just looks like a bush. Yeah, it's growing. It's thriving actually, and I know it's because I put it all in the same bed. That's probably the reason why they're not doing as well. at least the times and stuff. But if it gets to the point where they don't do so well, then it's fine. I'll harvest the seeds because I have a couple flowers, and then I'm going to grow stuff of my own, or simply I can just buy another one. I think when I planted these, I was kind of low on space. What I mean by that is pots and stuff, and I wasn't sure of how far I was going to go along the route in terms of planting these and stuff. But I'm currently expanding as I speak, and so I think there's, once again, you live and you learn. And so so some of them, the flowers did die, but the plants are still doing at least okay. I put some fertilizer on, and I'm going to water them more because they are in the same area and they're starting to grow pretty high. And I do know that they tend to be invasive in terms of space, so some of them I'm going to have to put, once they start to flower and fruit, is when I know I have to get a bigger pot. And I know this is going to kind of sloop down and stuff in terms of the heaviness of it. As you can see, it happened over here, and so I know that's how tomatoes are, and that's why some people recommend probably putting them in their own pot. So yeah, something that I'm learning as I speak. Here's a not celery, not cilantro, but this is parsley. Parsley is going pretty well. I know some of it is yellow, but there's still a good amount that are growing. You can see that. And yeah, I've been able to harvest time and time again, and yeah, I don't think it's too much of a problem. Okay, so here are my sunflowers. Sunflowers, they grow. They follow the sun. And I'll show you why. Because actually, this morning, the flower was kind of drooped down this way, facing the sun, because I know it's gonna rise in the east, and now it's kind of facing sun because, and it usually goes kind of southwest. It's not completely identical, well, the same thing as the sun moves, so just trying its best to move as it is a sunflower. Yeah, so this thing is probably about, I think, approaching 3 feet now. It's definitely over 30 inches. It's wide and probably 34 inches at this point. So yeah, it's about 3 feet. These, they're also doing the little pattern in terms of following the sun. That is, I find that pretty cool. And I am going to transplant them into this pot. I wanted to do so once this thing kind of flowers and dies off, but I think that's going to be another while. Worst case scenario, once again, I can just put them into maybe that pot, or I can put them into that pot over there, the empty one. I know. And the reason why I would do that is because I realized that the mango trees, they're kind of tricky to grow, but I don't think they recommend that you don't put them in a pot where it's all the way, like a deep pot, because it just kind of does well on its own in terms of space. So they're kind of good to grow in containers, at least. It's kind of tricky. And I know people have made it work. Hold on 1 second, sorry. Yeah, I know people have made it work, but yeah. I'll come back and talk about more of it. Okay, before I forget, here is the bed. This is, watermelon's growing pretty well. I mean, it's alright. Broccoli, unfortunately, I don't know how well this is gonna do because of the pest or the bugs already got to it. So cross some fingers, but because this is the season you would really plant broccoli. They thrive in the summer heat, but apparently they don't thrive against bugs eating it. Yeah, so these I transplanted, if I didn't mention that before. These are the Walla Walla onions, and so I just planted six of them together. I brought one batch. I know I kind of planted them a little bit closer, but I think what I'm going to do is maybe spread them out a little bit, because these onions especially kind of grow wide. And so I think there's enough depth in here that it'll go okay. And yeah, so here is the edamame. I don't know if they're I don't think they're at the verge of these. I don't think these are flowers right here, but they're still growing tall and they're growing pretty well. The last time I had edamame, well, when I got them, they were probably like this tall. So they were big actually compared to other plants I've bought, but it's still, they're doing well, and I think that's what matters. All of this is really experimenting to see how things will grow well. So in beds and containers in an urban space. So I think that's what is good about this. I'm learning as I'm growing, and I think that's the most important thing. Okay, so I didn't mention this before. I've gotten some female flowers, and so here's my very first zucchini that I've grown. Yeah, so it's just relatively large, about maybe 6-7 inches. It can be ready to harvest at this point, but I'm gonna wait until it can go a considerable size, maybe about a few more inches. I'll just give it a little bit more time to make sure I'm not missing too much. Yeah, so I have that flower, and then I have the female flower I just germinated 2 days, pollinated 2 days ago, and yeah. So that one is definitely gonna grow some zucchini. It's gonna grow into zucchini. I also have some female flowers. I don't know if you can see. Oh, this plant bugging it. So yeah, so that's a female flower. You can tell because they are thicker than other parts. So this one is a female flower. Yeah, right here. And then that one is a female flower. They kind of have this distinctive look. The stem is usually much thicker because that's where the fruit is. And then the flowers, they kind of have this unique look inside of it. So yeah, here's my butternut squash. Actually, I think some of them they're curving. I think they're just trying to face the sun. I think that's what's going on. I really need to get that trellis soon. All of these are female flowers. This is the largest one. And then I think these three are the pumpkin, which I'm telling you guys, I'm learning as we speak, as I go, weekly basis. So everything is not gonna be perfect. Yeah. So strawberries, went through that. There's 12 in here, a dozen. And then in here, oh wow, look at that! It's a weed. Look, I have a weed growing in here. Not marijuana, of course, but like a pest. I want to take that out before I forget. Look at that. I think it's dandelion. I know people grow dandelion, but no. I don't. No. Some plants are more fragile than others, and I do not need for any plant to come ahead and take away the nutrients. I need citronellas because I think that would help at least repel some pests that I haven't seen before. I haven't seen mosquitoes here, but it's always good to grow these in case. Yeah, so this dandelion is bothering me. I didn't even know it was growing a weed in there. It's crazy. The leaves look pretty similar, and I was just weird. And so they also gave me this from the community garden. And so I took some, and this is just like a little flowering plant. It's an annual. I think both of these are, I think they're grown as annuals. Kale is grown as a biannual, which that's something I didn't know. It's kind of unique, but hey. So here is the other bed. I mean, chamomile is growing pretty well actually. It's starting to flower. See, it's starting to flower. And I thought that it was just dying, but I'm happy that they're growing pretty well. This Thai basil, I kind of cut off the tips to at least prevent it from flowering too fast. They're babies. They look pretty young compared to the other ones. So yeah. Here's the lavender. I'm gonna cut the ones on the edge. I know they tend to do this where they kind of droop down, and that's to at least help to preserve the water and stuff. So they're grown as drought tolerant plants, but lavender can be really tricky to grow, in my opinion, only because they may die in certain climates. But hey, I'm gonna harvest them and see what I can do with them. I've been saying that for a while, but I really need to figure out what I'm gonna do with them. And one of 3 lemongrass plants. If I didn't say it before here, you get chamomile, pineapple sage, which is like the thick leaves. They kind of have that citrusy, tangy taste, like pineapple. It smells very nice, like the tropics. I think this. I realized that broke this morning. I think it's because it has been sitting out in the sun, or it has touched some sort of heat. Kind of got captured and the glass busted open. Yeah. So dwarf tree. I think that's a Mexican lime. I learned about grafting. I realized that's what makes it so small, but I need a dwarf tree only because I know they grow a tad bit better in containers. So it works out for me, and it was slightly cheaper than other ones. Here I have the Japanese eggplant. This one, Ichiban type, number 1, and then Black Beauty type, which we see more commonly here in the States. Yeah, so here's one pesto basil. Pesto. I took the tops off because I don't want them to flower just yet. So I just kind of harvesting. I know I need to harvest these more to make sure they at least aren't too invasive in terms of space. Yeah, my pesto basils. Here are 2. Beets. I've learned my lesson. I learned that I'm not really supposed to plant it in the hotter climates, but I think by the time these are ready to harvest, it's going to be fall. But as we know, it does get hot here in SoCal. Forget the name of this one. This is a purple sage. I got that recently. Lemon thyme, I got that recently. And then here's the spinach. Here's the lettuce. I have to really put those indoors. Here is the California navel. I forgot the name of it, but I do know some of the pollinators do like this. And then here are the butterfly weeds. Those are very nice. And yeah, I transplanted those for the sake of yeah. Okay, I'm actually kind of sad because I don't know. I think these have to be potted as soon as possible, or I don't think the water is getting to them in time, so that's why. It's so sad. It was so beautiful. I was kind of stalling on this, so I think that's why they weren't doing so well. I want to see if I can revive this because it's a really beautiful plant, and yeah, I don't know. They do say this, that some of them, they said it thrives in like zones 5 to 8, and obviously it's zone 10. So I don't know. I have to see if they're going to, because it kind of irritates me because in terms of at least the corporate stores, because they don't really tell you which ones are really good for our region. And so I know these are drought tolerant, but that doesn't mean that they don't grow well in like subtropical or desert climates. So it's it's crazy to me. You know what I mean? I watered it like every now and then. I guess maybe they kind of suck in the water because of the hotter climates. So yeah, I'm bummed out. I'm really disappointed, but I'll have to actually look again and see if people are actually growing it in this region. Yeah, so that's just kind of started to die out. I'm sad about it because it's really beautiful. But you live and you learn. Here's the Manila mango I actually bought. Just out of the blue, actually. Yeah. I wanna try and see how well they do in containers. Here's the bottom. Put a little tiny bit of fertilizer in it. I'm sure they put some, but I just want to know exactly what climate they grew theirs in. I know they kind of grow, the leaves start to turn brown or red when they're kind of sensitive plants in terms of the climate. So if you bring them indoors and outdoors, they're not going to be immediately used to it. So yeah, here's a mango. I'm gonna keep it in here for a while until the roots start to get down to the bottom. At least I have my autumn sage. It looks alright. I think this one probably goes much better in our region compared to the purple top verbena. I do water these, but I think I don't water them very often. But I just want to make sure that they are growing in the right climate. So I'm going to have to put them in their own type of... I need to transplant them into that blue pot over there. It's been crazy. It really has been crazy these past times. So I just think that tend to forget about. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to chop down this prune some of the lavender and see what I can do with it. Yeah. So this is the stuff I put in the shade, and they're pretty much thriving. Almost every day I'm just taking off some parts that kind of look like they're kind of pushing out, but yeah, they're doing really well. I think once you keep harvesting stuff, they'll keep giving you some leaves. The rabbits love it. And that's great that the rabbits love it. They're living. Here's my lantana. Some of they're still flowering. Here's that lavender I was talking about. It's still living. I think maybe it's just, I don't know, it's maybe one of those plants where you probably gotta harvest more often, or maybe it's also sensitive, like the verbena over there. Or is it verbena? Is that a verbena or vervain? It's verbena. Yeah. But everything here is still alive.